Hello and welcome to the Jim Marion Maple Sugar Shack here at Frost Valley YMCA. My name is Anthony Kordziel. I'm the Director of Natural Resources and Environmental Science at Frost Valley. And I'm here to just explain to you the process of maple syrup production. Here at Frost Valley we tap two different types of maple trees. This right here in front of me is a red maple. In the scientific terms it's known as Acer rubrum. This is a sugar maple, and the scientific name is Acer saccharum. So I'm going to demonstrate how to tap a maple tree to collect the sap to produce some syrup. So all we got to do, you're going to put your drill against the tree, you're going to find a good spot. You look for old tap holes, because anytime you find an old tap hole, there's a scar on that tree and sap isn't sent to that part of the tree. So we need to find a new place. Put my drill against the tree, try to get it as level as possible. This drill actually has a level on it, which helps me. And then all I do is drill in, pull out. About an inch and a half max is all you need to do. And then all you're gonna do is put your spout up against the tree and hammer it in until you hear a change in sound. And that's all there is to tapping a tree. So here at Frost Valley, we wait until the tree is either 9 or 10 inches in diameter, and every tree in our sugar bush, we only put one tap in. And we're taking about 10% of that sugar out of the tree every year at the most. And so a lot of research has showed there's maybe a 10% reduction in the diameter growth of a tree compared to that same tree that wasn't tapped in a different year. So we are slowing the growth of the tree very slightly, but it has no ill effects on the health of the tree. First, the sap starts in the ground. So you see the snow on the ground right now. So snow will eventually melt into water and then absorb into the ground. This tree during the springtime absorbs water, and it goes all the way up the trunk of this tree to the top into its branches, where there's buds that produce flowers and then leaves later on in the spring. The sap will go from the tree, down the drop line, through the lateral line, and then we're just going to go on a little journey down the hill along our lateral line. So as you can see, we have multiple trees connected together along this lateral line. So the sap is being either traveling by gravity or being sucked down through the vacuum system into this little blue cylinder. And here you can see a little bit of sap coming in through the releaser. So we have the vacuum on, that's the humming you can hear in the background. So pretty much what's happening is this works similarly to a vacuum cleaner that you'd have to clean your house. There's a lot of days we get about 5 gallons per minute of sap coming in from our tubing system. The sap will flow and then empty into our sap tanks. So you can see a little bit of sap in there. The sap coming in from our tubing system is approximately 1.5% sugar. That's about our average sugar content that we get here at Frost Valley. And we end up taking half of the water out of that sap and turning it into 3%. So the sap goes from these 3 white tanks through the reverse osmosis machine into this silver tank up here, and from that silver tank we end up gravity feeding it into the evaporator. Now this here is the reverse osmosis machine. What we're doing with this membrane is taking half of the water out of the sap before we start boiling it, and that really reduces the amount of firewood that we have to burn when we're making maple syrup. So right here is our maple syrup evaporator. So this is basically a large wood stove with stainless steel metal pans on top of it. So Dan is going to demonstrate what we do to keep the fire going in the evaporator. If you notice, we have a wheelbarrow full of wood, and Dan has a little piece of rebar, and then he's just going to open the door up. He'll use that piece of rebar to move some of the wood around to make a little bit more room, and then he's going to load this entire wheelbarrow full of wood into the evaporator. The syrup will be drawn off of this little valve into a 1-gallon container. It's very dark in color compared to what the sap was going in. So Dan is going to demonstrate what we do. So we have this special tool called a refractometer. So he puts a little bit of the syrup on there, and then he holds it up to the light, and you can see a very clear line of the sugar content in the syrup. So this is done by refracting light through the sugar molecules in the syrup so that you know whether or not you're at the correct sugar content, which has to be between 66% and 68% sugar in your syrup.
So the final step in the process is bottling the syrup, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I now have some of today's syrup going into this bottle. Try to fill it not too fast and not too slow because I don't want to create too much foam on top. That'll make things a little bit more tricky to get a good seal with the cap on there if we have too much foam. So I fill it all the way up. Now we're on to the next step. Come over to the caps. Screw a cap on. So I hear those nice clicks. I get a grading sticker, which indicates that this is very dark syrup. And the last thing I do is write a batch code for our specific batch of syrup so that we know when it was made and what batch it is in. We turn it upside down because that helps the foam seal on the inside to actually create a good seal on the inside of the bottle and on the inside of the cap. So that's the last step. We let those cool down and then they're ready for sale.
So you can buy either of these in the store in the dining hall at Frost Valley. Now you can also order syrup online through the store at frostvalley.org. We sell the half pint bottles and the pint size bottles online.
If anybody has any additional questions, feel free to email us at naturalresources@frostvalley.org. Thanks for watching.